Hello, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Wise Content Creates Wealth. You heard that content is king. Well, wise content rules the world. Wise content is content that incorporates search science, behavioral science, artificial intelligence, big data, and processes to make content that converts and better and gets more attention. I am Joseph Franklyn McElroy, and I am a marketing technology expert who has built a multi-million-dollar company. I'm also an award-winning content producer. Now, I coined the term wise content to describe content really that is impactful and inspiring to people who encounter it, to take actions that can be as simple as the decision to buy a product or service, or as complex as organizing for societal change. A classic example I use is that is the re-release of the 1936 propaganda film Reefer Madness, which was anti-marijuana in the 30s, but it was re-released in the 70s, and it became a cult hit on college campuses because it was so funny, and that allowed the distribution company to expand its presence in the film world. It was a small little company nobody knew about. That distribution company was New Line Cinema, which later became responsible for runaway hits like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Lord of the Rings trilogy. So putting out a piece of content for them, which in this case is a movie, made them into a big, giant business. A more recent example might be about how Oreo won the Super Bowl, 2013 Super Bowl, with the tweet, which if you look up, there was a blackout, and they did a tweet that just showed a picture of an Oreo and said, "You can still dunk in the dark." And it just went viral all over the place. Of course, there's still the mundane, but still important examples, which would be landing pages and great content on a website that effectively get companies found or get people to convert. Many factors go into the creation of wise content. First and foremost, though, it's creators. They must understand the needs and desires of their audiences. And this requires careful analysis and use of data and tools. And in this day and age, there's a lot of AI tools that we'll be talking about later to inform decisions about what to create and how to promote it. Other knowledge, tools, and tactics such as behavioral science, artificial intelligence, semantic research, and even co-creation with influencers can have a meaningful impact on the content produced and its resulting effectiveness. These tools and knowledge can also dynamically change wise content and personalize it for more effective results. The whole world of content is dramatically changing, and it's changing fast. So armed with knowledge and tools, creators can produce wise content and place themselves in a strong position to build on that content success. So that's why I created this podcast, to investigate the people, science, techniques, stories, case studies, and tools of wise content. In my own career, to give you some examples, I've had one piece of content bring me a seven-figure client. Just one blog post I put up, and it brought me a seven-figure client, and it was seven figures for 8 years. I've had one piece of content go viral and get me known as an artist with work now in museums. I have had one piece of content get featured as poetry on the Jumbotron in Times Squares. And I've had one tweet get 50,000 signups for a startup within 1 hour and crash their servers because so many people were coming there. I have built my career on these moments of wise content. Now, I am a home run hitter type of guy, so that's what I do. But I know that actually singles wins the season. You can't always depend upon getting home runs like that all the time. So you have to have good practiced content being produced in a smart way, wise content all the time. That's getting the small wins. So I've taken my knowledge and then found skilled professionals to form a company called Galileo Tech Media. We focus on travel and destination companies, multiple location companies, B2B and e-commerce. And our top services are wise content, smart search engine optimization, website monetization, and digital PR, which includes podcasting. Read more about us at galileotechmedia.com and sign up for our newsletter so that you can know what we're doing and what's coming down the pike in terms of these podcasts and webinars and things that we might do. Today, we're going to talk about who can create optimized content and why that answer might be everyone. But first, a little news. Google has announced that third-party cookies won't be depreciated in Chrome until late 2023. It has moved back its timeline to block third-party cookies in Chrome with an announcement essentially yesterday morning. This allows for more community input, and also other big companies want to have a say in what's going on. So they're going to actually do it in 2 stages starting late 2022. After some testing of the new changes and things they're planning to do, they will start having a time where people can migrate their services, but they'll have sort of a balanced approach. And then in stage 2, they're going to just phase out all those third-party cookies. Now, why is that important for me to mention besides just as a business matter? If you're doing paid advertising, you need to know that's coming down the pike. But, I think that, third-party cookies allow there to be a lot of information about who's coming to your site and why they're there, to get third-party data to fill in perhaps their intent is and things like that when you're marketing. Without as much of that information, you're going to have to rely more on content. What is the content people are looking at? Why, what would be the purpose of them looking at that content? What's the search terms that maybe they got there? Content and understanding wise content is going to become even more important because of this. And that's my opinion. So anyway, I was going to mention another thing I think is important, is how do you spot possible home run opportunities? And I was actually looking around today for various reasons. I was looking for stuff related to cat food. And I remembered a time when I was looking to, somebody was wanting to sell cat food in their stores. And I remember a time when Weleda, which is a beauty products brand, came to me and asked that they needed to increase their sales in Target stores. And I found that at the time, Target hadn't really well optimized for coupons. So I just optimized for Target coupons, got the #1 position, and had a page that just had the coupons for Weleda products that could be downloaded and printed that they could only redeem in the store. And we increased Weleda's in-store sales by about 10%, and they got to keep their products in there. And that was sort of a home run for me. Now, I don't know if those kind of big home runs are now available because people are optimizing for coupons, but I look for coupons for cat food on Google. And I looked in the keyword planner, which told me that there's significant search just for that specific term. And if you go through all the variations on that, there's thousands and thousands of searches monthly for that. But when I looked for the search on that, a page came up that there was no ads on, so nobody's paying to advertise for coupons. And the first 2 positions were held by Purina, which means that the other big companies are not really even paying attention to it. They're way down the page. And then there was a little site. Well, it's not that little. It's a coupon site that was there that had a #3 page. It was a reasonably ranked coupon site, but the page that was ranking was not particularly a powerful page. So that third position in my book is wide open. And if you are a brand, I would say even the position 2 or 1, you could be in the game, because if Purina has both of those top 2 and you're a big brand, you probably could capture one of those. That's the type of opportunities you want to look for in developing wise content, to see where you can actually build a business in what you're doing. So somebody might know a little bit about this in the SEO space is Michal Suski. Michal Suski is an SEO specialist and co-founder of Surfer, the content intelligence tool for SEO and content marketing. He has been evangelizing the product and data-driven optimization approach ever since. Hello, Michal.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's a big pleasure for me to be with you today.
Oh, I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the show. So now I was looking at your past, and you actually have a master's in forestry, right?
Yes, I
So
do. I never was.
How did you go from forestry to SEO?
Definitely by accident. Like I found a job during the end of the master's degree that was quality assurance. So I was testing software in the meantime, and it took me like a couple of years there to um, master how the software is built from inside, and that was actually super helpful for me to change the job to starting a SEO position, because my friend, he was running the agency, and the agency was established in a small village, 300 people living there. Can you imagine?
Oh,
And the SEO
wow.
agency built inside this village, and he was basically looking for people he knew that can learn. So relatively smart people that can accommodate to new environment. And at some point in the past, he basically asked me, hey, do you want to try? I said, like, whatever is it, just share with me some information, what is SEO, and what I'm going to do. And he sent me a video of Josh Bashinsky sharing his 2016 SEO ultimate guides, 3 hour long, kind of thing. And that's how it all started.
Well, that's fabulous. That's a good origin story. We all got to have our origin story, you know. So you formed a company with your brother. Is your brother also an SEO?
He was a developer at the time, uh,
Uh-huh.
and like we were struggling in this agency. Can you imagine, with hiring people? Like there's no one on the market. You look to the left, you look to the right. There's no one who is experienced in SEO. There's no more friends and family to hire, and it was like, okay, it's time to scale up. But when we cannot scale up the manpower, it's time to scale up the processes. So we built an internal tool that was like the Surfer Alpha. It was a different name and, well, written in PHP, but in general, the principles were similar to do reverse engineering on content. And we built it for the agency, and it turned out great. I mean, it worked for the agency. It allowed us to scale up. And then my brother jumped in. He is a super skilled developer uh, that helped us build the proper prototype that we went beta on global market. And that was the biggest moment in my life, I think, regarding the career, when it all started. Like, we three of us, myself, Sławek Tchaikovsky, the agency's owner, and my brother, we founded a team of three that started building Surfer as a side project. So
Fabulous.
that was validated idea.
All right, great. So when we come back, we'll find out more about Surfer and what it does. All right, and what you think
Absolutely.
about SEO.
Yeah. So
Just
it's
we're
all
going to
about.
break right now. We're going to a break right now.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m. So tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
Did you know that nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. battles mental illness? Hi, my name is Albert Daba. I'm the host of the show Extra Innings. Extra Innings, I discuss the topics of wellness, mental health, and the experience of surviving multiple suicides within my family. Listen live every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern to Extra Innings for discussions with sports figures, artists, mental health professionals, many others. That's Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklyn McElroy back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast. And my guest, Michal Suski of Surfer. So, Michal, you know, when I was, my wife was listening to my podcast the other day, she told me later, said, you know, sometimes you guys talk about acronyms and things that don't really know what they mean. Now, she knows what SEO, but she said, you should tell you listeners what various things mean. So I want to tell the listeners that SEO means search engine optimization, and it's about the practices that you need to do, the science and art of getting content on your website to show up in the search engines, and ideally to show up in the search engines near the top of the search results so that you can get traffic and get business. You agree with that?
100%. Yeah. And now I adjusted my definition of what Surfer does to help increase these positions. Thanks.
Yeah. So, and you know, I think it also encompasses actually what happens when people land on your site. And lands on the content, and you know, encompasses that content actually converting them into some sort of potential customer journey. SEO merges into something called inbound marketing, which merges into something called content marketing, which merges into something called digital public relations. So the lines between all these practices are hard to define, and it really is dependent upon who you're talking to. Now, you have trained hundreds of SEOs and copywriters and marketers. When did you do that, and what do you think was the best way that they found to learn it?
On the webinars, I think. Like, I've hosted a couple of hundreds of one-to-one demos, but the most impactful were webinars that people joined to see tools in action. That was the most successful type of webinar, when we've been, myself and my guest, we've been analyzing pages from the internet, trying to find what's wrong with help of the tools, and show on a real life example how this knowledge can be used in listeners' cases, because it's kind of like it's the same stuff over and over, like pages not touching all of the topics that are required to present the whole story, or pages too slow to load and that drags it down, or it is not styled properly, so you land on some sort of huge image that tells you nothing, and you have to scroll down and scroll again to get the value. So these common mistakes were highlighted and explained. Why are they mistakes? What can it cause? And so on and so forth. So, well, yeah, that was the webinars and the demos, the most impactful things to teach people.
Well, and you're actually sitting in your webinar cave right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like a good cave for it. So, Before the break, we were talking about, you hit this moment of aha, we got a product that has some potential. You made a beta, and you and the agency owner and your brother decided to form Surfer. So you went from an agency to a product. What does that transformation from agency to product look like?
Yeah, I really like this definition of agency turned SaaS. And the transformation, well, it is extremely hard because you have this transition period. It's not one day, it's not 1 week, it's at least half a year. For me, that was even a year, as I was head of SEO, so involved in many businesses, many clients right here in the office, and also doing the side project there. So it took us almost forever to move from our daily tasks in agency to focus 100% on the product. That was almost a year since we started beta, and moved to like full-time job almost a year after. That was crazy ride, but totally worth it.
Did you transition your agency clients to the new platform, or did you lose them?
The agency is still up and running
Oh,
and
really?
growing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we basically left the right people in the agency so they can handle, and they took over great, probably even better than when we were doing it. So yeah, really great to see that they just built a new office. I'm sitting in a new office of that agency that was first at the attic of of my CEO home. So a lot has changed
Yeah.
since we left the agency. So it's just great to see the positive impact.
So, almost all SaaS products are data driven, right? So, and I think you mentioned data driven when we were talking about it. What does it mean to be data driven?
In this case, it is about making decisions based on data. Like SEO is considered as a magician is hitting some keys on the keyboard and doing some magic stuff, and boom, page ranks better. And not anymore. The guesswork is removed with the data driven approach. So you know that the content should be long form or short form, that the content should touch these and that topic, or should be like a short definition and so on. And it means to be data driven. And in our case, it is picking the brain of the biggest algorithm we can imagine, which is Google algorithm, as the principle of Surfer is to reverse engineer Google's algorithm. And you mentioned these behavioral signals, satisfaction, the content that is really created for people, so it keeps the high positions for years. And Google measures it really in detail, like if people like the content, if it's the best answer, and so on. And when you take the output of that algorithm, you can find out what are the common elements of pages that are being rewarded by this algorithm. Of course, there are like thousands of adjustment knobs in there, and machine learning, and even knobs that are turning themselves based on data. So it's kind of we are not able to absolutely, I mean, completely reverse engineer it, yet we can help ourselves with the output to create our output to be better for both people and the algorithm, to satisfy both parties.
Well, and I agree that 90% of what was done for SEO is totally, predictable. The thing that I question in my experience has shown is that there's some things that Google doesn't know. For example, I do something called, I research academic studies called memorable tourism experiences, right? and they haven't been really commercialized the concept of memorable tourism experience, and I've been experimenting with it. And it's a way to use emotional signals that are particular to travel that make people have a memorable experience, right? And they found that anticipation, makes the experience more memorable. So doing words that build anticipation for particular emotional experiences, like it could be hedonism, it could be refreshment, it could be interaction with local culture, things like that, is something that many and most travel writing and content is not done. All right, they more follow the traditional, either trying to be viral, which is 10 top things to do, things like that, or they're trying to be full of data to get shares. And the thing that we found is if you also concentrate on building anticipation for memorable experiences, you get higher click-through rates, and then that translates into higher user engagement, which of course then helps you rank higher in the search engines. But there's nothing right now as of yet that will tell you, oh, you should use, there's not enough data out there, people doing this sort of thing to say you should use these types of memorable experiences. So the point is that things that are new in terms of behavioral science, things that are new in terms of that are come out discoveries, people have not incorporated that into content on a mass scale, so Google can't discover it, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we only have the information that is already there.
Yeah.
And it helps us with this initial stage. Like, you cannot do everything with reverse engineering. There is always needed a mix of creative and art in content creation, and our task on Surfer's End is to make it readable for Googlebot, so you can actually have real readers from organic if you combine it with the creativeness and the nature of people in general.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about the democratization of data-driven approach. What do you mean by that?
It's like allowing people to get assumptions based on data without actually getting the data. So data acquisition, it is really hard. I had hard times in data acquisition. We've been doing it all manually, and presenting it in a consumable way to the people is what I call democratization of data-driven.
Okay, cool. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to find out if you think content really matters for SEO.
We're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I am Joseph Franklyn McElroy, host of the new podcast, Wise Content Creates Wealth. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Friday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2. They say content is king. Well, wise content rules the world. Every episode features tools and tips for content marketing and business people telling the wise content stories of that success. Tune in every Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, this is Joseph Franklyn McElroy back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast and my guest, Michal Suski. So, Michal, does content still matter in SEO?
Well, I heard a quote from Kyle Roof. He's actually running a competitor's business to Surfer, but this quote is brilliant. You can't rank a page that doesn't exist.
Yes.
And that sums it up, really. So the content is required to become noticed in a organic search. If you have a one pager that just mentioned your telephone number and your name, you won't be found in any other way than by your name or the telephone number.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, I agree with that. And, it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking that a lot of people, when they have multiple store locations and things like that, they don't create content for every one of those stores. They just list telephone numbers and addresses and think that's going to work. No, you have to create content for each store, and then you get ranked for the store, for each store for relative information. So, so what do you think? What has changed most in the 5 years about content? Last 5 years about content?
Content wasn't that valuable 5 years ago. When I was joining the SEO industry, it relied 90% on links. It was like, well, link building everywhere, and the only content optimization was related to meta tags.
Yeah.
Like to take the title of the page and put a keyword inside and maybe put it here and there, and that's it. Let's do links 90% of the time. And now, and during these 5 years, there was a huge shift and a huge movement even that you can rank without links. You can have a website that has no history, no backlinks pointing to it, yet still fulfill a small niche that can be profitable and can be ranked with just content. So in the past, that wasn't possible.
I think that I agree with you that you could do it without links, but you do have to have traffic, right? So you have to get traffic some way. Without traffic, you can't get ranked. So, we do things like syndication networks, to get traffic sometimes. So you can do it without links, but you do have to have traffic. Why is topical relevance of the website as equally important to well-optimized creative piece of content? Why is it topical relevance?
So we have, in general, we can consider a website on two levels. Like one level is the particular URL that we are trying to optimize, so it answers all the questions within the specific keywords that we are covering, like best running shoes. So we explain what are they, how to choose them, and so on and so forth. That's on the URL level. But a lot of people forget that you have to build trustworthiness by becoming an expert in specific industry. If you are explaining running shoes, cover all of the aspects, and that's the topical relevance of the domain. So you are not only reviewing the shoes that make you money, but you also review injuries in running. You also review like what to do with the knee pain and why is running on the tarmac different than running on the grass, and so on and so forth. And the topical relevance makes Google think, all right, This website is really a trustworthy and complete source of knowledge about shoes, so I will rank it higher because they are not only one URL and that's it about shoes, they are complex.
Mhm. So you mentioned when we were talking earlier about a snowball effect. How is that fuel? Can you say what that is and how it's fueled by content?
That's exactly going for fulfilling the whole niche to making the topical relevance to the maximum. So covering all of the topics in a niche, and a snowball effect can be created within the smallest niche you can imagine. And of course, you start small, but you grow big. Like I have a friend who runs a website about gardening, but not the gardening in general, but organic gardening. So he niched down to the bare minimum, and he's covering only topics related strictly to organic gardening. And he achieved this goal of creating the snowball effect by taking over the whole organic gardening niche. And from now on, he can climb to broader topics about gardening. So you have to start small and cover the whole thing, like uh, these big fish in a small pond. This is
Yeah.
the snowball effect. If you have this approach, you can create the snowball effect, which is actually growing organic traffic constantly.
It's a little bit like a military campaign. You conquer the territory you can conquer with the resources you have, and then you use the land that you can conquer to fuel finances so that you can go bigger. Uh,
100%, like a video game.
so let's talk about your software. What does Surfer do? What kind of features does it have?
Well, it does a bunch of things. It started as the SEO tool for experts, but we are moving towards democratization of this data driven approach to content. So I will just mention essentials, which is the streamlined process of determining the topics that you should be covering to build this expertise in a niche, and then executing that strategy with a data driven approach, which is more or less analyzing pages that are currently being rewarded by Google, finding out why are they being rewarded, and replicating the best practices they have specifically for their keywords in today in your location, so you are really specific and real time, and you are creating the best content you can for today and the days that are coming. So that's what Surfer does. Well, this streamlined process, ideation to execution.
That's fabulous. And I see that you have a content editor, a content planner, a SERP analyzer. SERP stands for Search Engines Results Page Analyzer. So it analyzes who's in the results. You have an SEO audit tool, a keyword research tool, something called Keyword Surfer, and a content editor extension. What are those two?
Um, in general, I would like to focus just on those that are the most important for everyone listening us today. That will be the content editor for the execution. So you basically type like in Google Docs, and you see on the right hand side words and phrases that should be included, topics that should be covered, and guidelines that you have met, like 1000 words long, because not out of the blue, not because it is a general practice, but because pages that are currently ranking for your target keywords have this amount of content, so you have to align with them. And the content planner, the tool that will tell you about all of the topics your competitors cover in the niche, so you can determine quickly the gap between your current situation and the best state of a page that covers all of the topics in specific niche. And if you are on the finished state of the content planner, you've got the snowball effect if you did the job right. The other tools are for experts, and I will keep them kind of secret.
I want to keep them secret, but people can use them, right? Uh,
Of course, of course.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think an SEO audit's an important tool to be aware of is, because you have to know technically, if your site technically doesn't work,
Yeah,
then
so
you're not going to succeed in the search engines at all.
the audit is there to help you after the publication. So when you
Yeah.
got the content, when you land it on the page, it will, for example, tell you if it's still missing something, because we have the content created in Google Docs and it's just the plain content. And we have the content that is actually on a published website, and you can have a template injecting some stuff here and there. You can have a like footer stuff, sidebars, pop-ups, and many different things. And the content that seem to be optimized in Google Docs becomes really diluted.
Oops, lost you for a second. Oh, you're back. All right.
Yeah, that's the storm. Like, it's a really stormy day here in Poland today, so sorry for inconvenience. Yet I cannot do anything about it, unfortunately.
You don't have a lightning analyzer in your product.
No.
What is the most common misconception somebody might have about Surfer when they're coming to it?
That it will do the job for the people in general. It's not an autopilot. It's
Okay.
it's a tool that gathers data and leaves you with making the decision what I'm going to do next. And sometimes people want us to generate the content, to like create a page for them. That's not going to happen. You'll get the guidelines, you'll get the topics, words and phrases to include, but the writing and the creative part is on you. It's not like AI, automation, generation, and so on.
And what are the most common mistakes people have when they use Surfer?
They try too hard.
They try too hard?
Yeah, like we have this metric content score that is there to help you estimate if you are doing a good job.
Uh-huh.
And they literally want 100% score, which is, you can imagine, like having 3,000 words long article with so many dependencies inside, and trying to get this 1%, it takes them sometimes hours. And instead of doing this, my go-to strategy is to create another article for 75% of content score, instead of chasing the 1%, because this way you will build topical relevance. The content is already better than anyone in the top 10. So the chasing the content score too hard is the biggest mistake.
All right, cool. Well, when we come back, we'll finish up with how you fit in the industry. All right.
Sure.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Howdy, I'm Joseph Franklyn McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history. its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, this is Joseph Franklyn McElroy back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast and my guest, Michal Suski. So Michal, there's starting to be a little bit of a marketplace of AI tools, and even some of the enterprise systems like Bright Edge have a lot of AI in there. What makes Surfer stand out?
I feel like the approach that we have to this streamlined content creation process, we try to wrap it up in some sort of an SOP for building an authority website from the topical relevance point of view. And I feel like this is the biggest differentiator for
Oops, lost you. Yeah, lightning strike again. I'm assuming he'll be back in just a second. I saw in a recent article that they actually compared well against multiple platforms, and they were. I think you won an award recently, right, for being one of the top platforms.
I lost you for a second.
While we were gone, I was just mentioning I'd seen an article where you had been compared against a lot of different SEO platforms, and you had been one of the top 3. All right.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah.
In general, we are getting traction. There is like over 5,000 people using it on daily basis, which is I'm super proud of. It becomes an industry standard, and for me, if you are producing content without any tool that helps you find out what to write about to satisfy the real demand of both users and Google, if you want the organic traffic, you are losing money. Like we've been hiring some professional content writers that costed us like $3,000 per big article. Maybe a lot, maybe not. In general, for me, that's quite a lot. $3,000 for an article. And imagine that someone is paying $3,000 for an article that is not being SEO optimized at all.
Yeah.
And the SEO optimization using Surfer, for example, is $99 a month. And if you are paying $3,000 for an article, then why not adding this cutting edge technology to the stack so the article can actually attract people from organic traffic?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the thing.
Would you say the content editor is the feature that is most attractive to your clients? And there's always a feature that brings people in, and then they discover the other things.
100%. It's the most advanced writing assistant on the web. We have origins in SEO, really deep data analysis, and we transferred these deep data analysis into something actionable for the writers. And you mentioned with the title of this episode about who can write as SEO optimized content and why everyone, because of content editor. This is a tool that turns writer into SEO writer without any extra learning curve and requirements. You basically get the guidelines that I've been creating these guidelines manually, and tons of SEO do it still manually. So they analyze the top 10 pages, they check the commonalities, they try to find out these words and phrases that should be present on the page. It takes hours, and it is called super advanced, guidelines for content writers, brief creation, and so on, while you can have it in one click without any knowledge. The only thing you have to know is to what to write about, what's the niche. So yeah, that's the content editor tool.
And it's great. I mean, I think I mean, there's several tools out there. I've interviewed a few others here. I think you guys are doing a pretty good job. I think the challenge for you is that Google doesn't change the world underneath your feet, right?
Let's see how it goes. Today
which
they messed with us with like we have some servers on GCP, and they were down for a couple of hours. So our newest feature that actually incorporates AI in terms of outline of the article creation that is generated with AI, it was down for a couple of hours just because of Google GCP platform down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even the fact of the matter is Google, it's been the bane of SEO's existence from the beginning as they change their algorithms. So if they change their algorithms yet again, then you have to keep ahead of that. So it's not really escaping that treadmill that we've all been on for a long time.
you know what? There are algorithms that are bold, big algorithms, but in fact, Google is rolling updates every day. The results are so volatile. Like, what has changed in 5 years? 5 years ago, there was an update once a year or twice a year, and that's it.
Yeah.
And now the results are so volatile that to be up to date constantly, you have to analyze the top pages every quarter or even every month in competitive niches to see if there is anything new that you should add to your content to stay on top and stay on the forefront.
Well, cool. So what's the future for your product? Yeah, future plans?
So everyone on the web creates content with the tool. That's the goal, like to make it affordable for everyone. Like there's a blogger who writes a few pieces a month. Why can't he get organic traffic? Why can't he get or she get organic traffic? That's the goal. And it is combined with create, like we have a lot of bricks and we have to create some mortar to join them into one process that will take your domain from the place where it is right now and create a map step by step, write these, optimize that, add internal links here and there, and it will take you to your ideal structure that the snowball effect is real. So that's the goal, to democratize that knowledge.
So what's your URL for Surfer again?
It's surferseo.com.
Surferseo.com. And how do people follow you?
I believe on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Actually, I lost being private on Facebook already. So it's totally business tool for me. So you can feel free to add me as a friend on Facebook. I accept everyone because, well, that's part of my job. So,
and your name is spelled MICHALSUSKI. So if somebody wants to look you up, they can find you there, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you for being on our show. After this, we're actually we're going to film a demo of the tool, and we're going to put that up on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube and look for Wise Content Creates Wealth channel, and there will be a demo probably about a week after this podcast. So you can actually see a demo of the product. I'm on the talkradio.nyc network. I would recommend that there's some really great shows on this network, all live. The one I think that precedes this is by Jeremiah Fox, and it's called Entrepreneurial Web. I think it's a really great show to watch. Next time, come an hour early and listen to that show. I also run another podcast, Gateway to the Smokies, which demonstrates our interest in destination marketing and markets my resort in the Smoky Mountains, North Carolina, called the Middle Arc Motel. My company is Galileo Tech Media. You can find out more about us at galileotechmedia.com. And we are a very advanced, wise content, smart SEO team working on destination marketing, real estate and multi-location businesses. You can find this podcast on wisecontentcreateswealth.com. It's streamed live on talkradio.nyc. The Zoom with the videos also streamed live on Facebook, both on the talkradio.nyc's Facebook page and facebook.com/wisecontentcreateswealth Facebook page. And every week, Fridays from 1 to 2, we have another episode. So I look forward to seeing you being here next week to provide you with some more interesting insights into wise content. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.com.